Hi guys, Anthony Llewellyn, the Career Doctor, back with some more tips to help you manage your medical career. Today we're talking about cover letters. So cover letters, it may seem odd in this day and age that we're still writing letters of application for jobs. I guess technically we should also include the concept of a cover email, because often what you're doing is emailing rather than sending in an actual written or typed letter, aren't you, these days? But it's true, for a lot of jobs you still are required to provide some sort of narrative introduction about your interest in the job. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time today with you talking about how I think in 2019 you should go about compiling that cover letter or cover email for your job application. And the concept I want to introduce to you is the idea that you can actually make this a fairly simple process. Don't need to spend a lot of time on the cover letter or email. So this might seem a little bit odd because you might have been told by others that the purpose of a cover letter or a cover email is to outline how you are suitable for the job that you're applying for, and generally that will mean outlining how you meet all of the selection criteria. But the thing is, if you've spent the time making a tailored CV or resume, and I've done plenty of videos and posts about that, I'll also drop some links about those below. If you've spent that time tailoring your CV or resume, making sure it actually addresses why you're not just a good applicant for any job, but this particular job, why waste further time on doing that again in your cover letter or email? The purpose of the cover letter or email ought to be about getting the person who's advertised that job to read that CV or resume. So this is what I recommend you doing. The first thing I'd recommend you doing is check whether they actually want a cover letter or email. Why would I say that? Well, actually with a lot of the online application systems, they've changed the approach to whether you really need a cover letter in the first place, because often they might ask you a number of questions based around the selection criteria, which kind of fills in that need for the introductory cover letter. You see, in the old days before all these online systems, they would want you to write down verbatim how you met all those selection criteria, so it was there on your file. But now through the application portals, there's usually like form fields that you can fill in and show and demonstrate how you meet all the criteria. So they may not actually want you to supply a cover letter, like for example in the New South Wales health system, so don't do it if they ask you specifically not to do so. The second thing, and I just want to re-emphasize this, is before you write that cover letter or email, make sure you've taken the time to go through the job, read through all of the information, particularly go through the selection criteria and think deeply about how you meet those criteria, and then translate that into making sure that you go through your CV and resume and ensure that it does actually show how you meet those selection criteria specifically. That's what we call tailoring your CV or resume. Then and only then would I recommend you go on to the cover letter or email. And I'm going to suggest an approach where you may need as little as 4, maybe 5 sentences to achieve what you need to achieve with the cover letter or email. So remember, the idea here is to get the reviewer intrigued about you as an applicant for the job and wanting to read the CV or resume that you've spent so much time and energy putting together just for them. So this is what I want you to do. The first thing is, whether you're writing the letter or the email, obviously you've got to address it to the person who's recruiting to the job. So you can do this in your own fashion. Dear Ms., dear Doctor, dear whatever. Obviously you need their full name, and then you need to actually specifically mention the job that you're applying for. Make sure that you write it down or you copy it verbatim so that you're accurate about the position that you're applying for. So, dear Dr. Jones, I wish to apply for the position of Senior Resident Medical Officer in the regional hospital, whatever the exact job position is. So that's your first sentence. Now for your second sentence, you need to tell them why you're actually a good candidate for the job. This is not a point in time to be shy about yourself. Recruiters want to know that good applicants are applying for their positions. They've spent time putting together the job together. They like to think that their hospital or their unit or their service is one that has a high reputation. They like to think that outstanding candidates are going to apply for positions. They don't want to see mediocrity in their candidate pool. So why not mention that fairly early on or right off the bat? Firstly, you want to tell them why you're a good candidate, and then you want to emphasize that you think you are a strong candidate for the role. Now, I would go through your resume, I'd again go through the job selection criteria, and I'd work out the key strength that you bring to the role. Now, that might be about the amount of experience you've had so far, that might be about some qualifications that are really critical to the role, it might be something even more unique about skills that you've developed in previous roles. Whatever that is, make sure you bring that into the sentence. And then the other thing is, as I said, you need to end that sentence by indicating that you feel you are a strong candidate. So for example, maybe you're applying for a surgical registrar position, and maybe you've been working as a doctor for 6 years and 4 years already as a registrar in surgery. So you might say something like, I offer 6 years of clinical experience, including 4 years of outstanding performance as a surgical registrar, which make me a strong candidate for the role. So you can use a word like good or strong or outstanding, whatever fits best for you, but make sure you've indicated that you do feel that you're a strong candidate. As I say, employers want to hear that. Now, the third sentence is a bit of an optional, but there are a lot of situations where employers are sensitive to making sure that you have key things in order to progress your application. So a great example is international doctors going for some of the rare jobs that will accept them in Australia, and often the employers want to see certain things that prove that they will be eligible for registration. Things like their Australian Medical Council status, their English language test proficiency, visa issues, those sort of things. So they want to know that if they do give you an interview, they're not going to be wasting their time. Another example would be the situation of training positions. Often, if it's not an entry-level training position, you already need to be a trainee with a college, so that needs to be emphasised as part of your application. You'll be able to tell this by reading through the selection criteria. What are those key must-haves? So if there are some key must-haves, make sure you get them in your cover letter to make sure that you do get through that pass, that you're sort of highlighting, yes, I meet the basic requirements of this role, so they're going to consider your CV in more depth. So for example, if it was an international doctor, you might say something like, I've recently completed both parts of my AMC certificate with outstanding marks and have a current IELTS score with an average range of 8.0. Or if it, say, was for a psychiatry training position, you might say that I'm registered as a trainee with a college and have made good progress in my training requirements so far. So you're signalling to them that there won't be any problems in considering you for the role based on the basic requirements. So say that might be an optional sentence for some circumstances, but think about what are the must-haves for this role. So almost there, the fourth sentence. The fourth sentence is about letting them know about your CV or resume. So remember, we've spent time tailoring this. We've put in a good personal statement or career goals summary that highlights why you are an outstanding candidate, that matches how you bring value to the role as per the selection criteria and the other requirements. So we're going to key them and intrigue them for that. We don't actually spell it out because we want them to think, I really need to read this CV or resume. I remember in the past when I've applied for jobs, I've often taken a different approach, which is to list in the cover letter how I meet all of the selection criteria, and often that can take 2, 3 or 4 pages. And I think the problem with doing that is that there's no point then in going on to read the resume. You've kind of gone through that already. So I've wasted the opportunity for highlighting other outstanding material in my resume. So what I want you to do is write a sentence like this. I have taken time to read through the position description and develop a resume which highlights several key strengths which I bring to the role. So you're telling the recruiter several things in this sentence. Firstly, you're telling them you actually took your time to read through the job description, that this is an authentic application, that you're sincere in your approach. Secondly, you've actually bothered to align your career so far with the actual requirements of the job to make it a little bit easier for them to make their own decision as to whether you are a good candidate. And thirdly, it's going to be worth their while reading your CV because there will be some aspects of it that they are probably going to find exciting. So off to the fifth and final sentence. That might be the fourth and final sentence depending on whether you've included that sentence about must-haves. So you want to close off here with a call to action. What you want to do is try and engineer a situation where you might be able to have a phone call or even a face-to-face meeting with the person recruiting to the role before the actual proper interview process. So say something like this: finally, I'd welcome the opportunity to speak with you if you feel that I am a good candidate for this position or any other suitable position. And that last bit is very important, any other suitable position. Why is that important? Well, for a couple of reasons. One is you don't want them to just think that you're just interested in that particular job alone. You want them to think that you're also interested in any other jobs in the organisation, because you want them to get the feel that you're also interested in working for the organisation as well. So that's the first point. The second thing is you just don't know what other opportunities are coming up. You want to make it easier for them because they might actually have other jobs getting posted in the future, and just might mean that you are included early in a future recruitment process because they've tagged your CV as someone with potential. So you're opening yourself up for other opportunities, whether they're formally advertised or not, to come through. And that's it. So you've now either written a 4 or 5 sentence cover letter that's probably only taken you a few lines on an email, a few lines on a page, and it's achieved a number of things. Firstly, we've established your interest not just in the job, but in the organisation that owns that job. Secondly, you've signalled that you are a strong candidate to the person reviewing your application. Thirdly, you've highlighted a key strength and you've indicated that there are several more to come if the person will take the time to read through your CV or resume. Fourthly, you've made sure that you've helped the reviewer check off on any of the essential must-haves for candidates, made their job easier. And finally, you've just intrigued the reviewer to actually want to know more about you. Now, if you want to know more about writing cover letters and applying for jobs or putting together CVs or resumes or progressing through the interview process as well, then I have courses on each of those particular parts of the doctor job application process. Alternatively, you might want to come to our workshop in Sydney on the 29th of June. I'll put information about all of those courses and the workshop in the description below. I just wanted to give a shout out to Andy Lasavita and his excellent channel. I got a lot of the inspiration for this particular video from Andy and some of the good stuff that he talks about the job recruitment process. And of course, if you've got a question or comment, please feel free to leave me one in the comment sections below. If you're enjoying these videos, why not subscribe and turn on notifications? And I will see you in the next video.